Hello everyone, it's Miss Misa here, back with another men's rights video. I know that I said I'd try and make more of these videos as quickly as humanly possible, but with me trying to make daily content and trying to maintain some kind of social life outside of my YouTube life, mainly for my own mental health, I haven't really had the time to do the research needed to talk about men's rights issues. I would go into these videos with no research and no citations, but unfortunately it seems as though if people who support men's rights don't provide some kind of evidence for what they say, the feminists won't listen to us. And even then, they don't really seem to, but having research to back up what you say is always important. Maybe not Teal'c level of research, because that guy is a fucking god when it comes to analysing research papers, but you guys know what I mean. I guess these videos aren't really for the feminists and the SJWs to watch anyway, since they wouldn't really watch them except to call me a misogyny supporter or some shit. Today's video is going to be focusing on the UK law that I've brought up in many different videos, which is really messed up. It's the law that states that men cannot be raped by women within the UK legally, but can only be sexually assaulted by them. According to the Sexual Offences Act of 2003, it is an offence for any male to penetrate with his penis the vagina, anus, or mouth of a female or a male without their consent. Male rape became recognised in law in 1994, but the 2003 legislation made victims of rape gender neutral. Now, they say gender neutral, which would make you think that all the victims of rape are men and women, no matter who rapes them, but this isn't the case. Women, as is obvious, cannot penetrate men with a penis, therefore, they cannot rape them under this law. This means that by default, when women force sex upon men, which does happen and a lot more often than you would think, it doesn't class as rape according to the laws within the UK. It classes as sexual assault. Even if the woman penetrates a man with something, it still doesn't class as rape as one would imagine. This is called assault by penetration. This happens if any male or female penetrates the vagina or the anus of any other person without their consent. The offence is committed where the penetration is by a part of the body, for example a finger, or anything else, for example an object for sexual intent, but not the penis. Now, I can imagine people asking why this matters so much. I mean, so what if women raping men isn't classed as actual rape? It's not as if it can really affect the system too much, can it? Well, the thing is, the rate at which women go to prison is already low as fuck. I'll be making a separate video on this in the future, but according to the House of Commons Library, in 1901 there were 152 male prisoners per 100,000 male heads of population. This rate increased to 355 per 100,000 at the end of 2016. There were 27 female prisoners per 100,000 head of female population in 1901, and at the end of 2016, this rate had decreased to 16 per 100,000. This means that the rate of females going into prison within the UK has decreased and the amount of men going to prison has increased. And with laws like this being implemented, I'm not fucking surprised. This is a privilege that women have. Not only do we get incarcerated less than men, not because we commit less crimes per se, but because we have a leeway to get away with certain crimes that men would never get a leeway on, but we also don't have to deal with the same laws that men do. And it doesn't look as though, despite the protesting that the SJWs and feminists are doing, that they're doing anything to protest this law, despite it being discriminatory towards one specific gender. And why is that? Well, it's because this is a law that doesn't discriminate against women. Because if it's not affecting women, or so-called minorities, feminists and SJWs don't give a flying fuck about it. Now, I'd hate to make this video all about feminist bashing because it will take away from the actual issue at hand, but I do have to say this. Feminists are the reason why this law exists and the reason why nothing is being done about it. They're making the entire country focus so much on women being a victim class and being unfairly treated by society, despite men having it worse by law, standards, and even socially, that when something negatively affects men in society, no one gives a shit about it. I've done at least 3 videos relating to men's rights, and believe it or not, they don't have that many views compared to the rest of the videos on my channel. Now, I'm not saying this to guilt trip people into watching my videos for views, I'm saying this to make a point. People would rather watch us anti-SJWs wreck feminists than watch us talk about how men are fucked over by society, because no one gives a fuck about men's rights. They just care about proving feminists wrong, and the feminists just care about making women be, well, better off than men. It's the reason why MGTOWs get so much hate, even when they aren't the recently red-pilled MGTOWs that call for gender segregation and call all women whores and all that shit. They have legitimate reasons for being upset and angry, and most of them talk about things like this and point out how unfair society is to men, but they all get branded as sexist by the feminists and the anti-SJWs alike. It's the same with the MRAs to an extent. Now, I'm obviously not saying that every single feminist and every single anti-SJW judges them like this before talking to them, but when I do speak to anti-SJWs and feminists about their opinion of MGTOWs and MRAs, the majority say that they just think they're sexist and irrational in their anger and their upset. When you really listen to some of the things that they say, they do make sense and are speaking like I am right now, stating facts and talking about how unfair it is. I do recognise that the skeptics and the anti-SJWs are more likely to accept the MRAs, but they still don't really seem to like the MGTOWs that much. I do kind of get why with some of the things that they say, but when you talk to some of them, they do make sense, but it just seems like we've branded all of them as misogynist and sexist and crazy. Laws like this are why us anti-SJWs say that feminists want more equality than men, not just equality as a whole. Because in this case, women have an advantage over men, and they're clearly not attempting to do anything about this advantage to give men and women a level playing field, despite constantly complaining about rape being an issue that needs to be spoken about. However, feminists still have the audacity to complain about rape laws not covering certain things in regards to drunken sex and related to women being victims. Men can't even be victims according to the law when they're raped by women. Maybe, just maybe, you should try and focus on that before you try and complain that women are victims. Because in regards to the rape laws, women have it a lot better than men do, and I think we need to get everybody on equal playing fields before we start complaining about how the laws are at the moment. But that's all I wanted to say about this. I just feel like not much really needs to be said about the actual law, and more needs to be said about how disgusting it is that it's still implemented in the UK. I want this to be abolished as quickly as possible. Men should have the right to claim the same crimes having been done to them as women, and it's just fucking mind-boggling that this isn't the case in 2017. And yes, I did just use a current year argument, so sue me, it's fucking true. I'm really genuinely concerned that if society keeps going the way that it is and the feminists do take over, laws like this are going to be implemented everywhere, not just the UK, and I am a bit worried that men are going to get even more fucked over by society than they already are. And I'm just saying, this part of the video for me is completely unscripted. I just want to say, I do genuinely feel bad for men out there. They do have to deal with this shit constantly, and the feminists are always complaining about how society is so unfair, society is so sexist, when in actuality, there's proof like this that society is not sexist towards women, and in fact, it's actually really oppressive towards men. I feel like as a woman, I've got it pretty damn good, and I get so tired and sick of seeing the feminists complain about this shit, when in actuality, they've got nothing to complain about. They've got it pretty damn good. They always use things like the wage gap to argue against the fact that men have it bad in society, and they don't even look too deeply into their own arguments. I mean, if they did, they'd realize the wage gap was an earnings gap and not a wage gap. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I will see you guys in the next video, whatever the fuck I decide to make next. If you have any ideas for anything related to men's rights that you want me to talk about in the future, I've already got a long list, but there can always be more added onto it, then let me know in the comments below. And as always, peace out guys. Bye!